Hey, at some point, can you get me an extension cord and plug me in? At some point, when you're done.
Welcome to Talkin' Jets. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside our panel. We got Green Bean to my left and Matt to my right. Green Bean, how you doing tonight? Where are you at in the country right now?
Oh man, I am excited to be here because I didn't know if I was going to make it. It was, last minute, man. I made it. I am about an hour outside of Salt Lake City on a farm, 6,000 feet above sea level. You'll see alpacas and goats behind me, but I've been told they're friendly, so we should be okay.
Matt, how you doing tonight? I know you and I lost power last week and weren't able to have the stream. How you hanging in there?
Yeah, thank God I only lost it for about a day. I know you had it much worse over there, but I was out for about 24 hours, and we're all good and up and running now.
Oh, man. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, we had a bad storm come through the New Jersey, New York area, and man, did it suck. I lost power from basically 3 o'clock on Tuesday straight through till like the nighttime on Thursday. We had no air conditioning. Luckily, we have city water, so it wasn't too bad. We still had that, but oh man, at my work, I had it even worse. I was literally dumping water from the koi pond out back down toilets after people went to the bathroom just to flush everything. It's just, it was not okay. But we got a lot of stuff to catch up on. Most notably, down below, Pj Mosley opting out. We'll get into that. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We only got 7 likes on this stream right now. We got like 50 people in here, so smash that like button. Show people that you like the content, and that will help other people chime in and watch this stream in the future. It does a lot for the algorithm for YouTube and everything like that. But yeah, guys, if you have not subbed up, Green Bean or Matt, links are in the description down below, so make sure you sub up those guys. They are some great Jet content creators, and it's a great time to try and, you get a little bit of Matt from his podcast, from his videos, Green Bean, all over the country, literally filming everything on the road. Phenomenal, all the time. But guys, let's jump right into it. Let's start talking about Pj Mosley opting out. I know Green Bean had a lot of energy surrounding this. He's like, oh, let's do the panel on Wednesday. We couldn't do it Tuesday night. Let's try to do it again. So Green Bean, I'm going to toss it to you first. Let's hear all your thoughts regarding the Pj Mosley opt-out.
Right. Well, and number one, it's disappointing, obviously. I mean, I was literally the day before I got into an in-depth discussion with somebody using Pj Mosley as one of the reasons why the defense was going to improve, from our really impressive showing last year. But the truth is that just keeping it to Pj Mosley, we didn't have him last year. So it's not necessarily a downgrade because we never had him. Now, the improvement might not be possible. But as far as, it being a huge shot to the defense, we had him for 3 quarters last year. It was an amazing 3 quarters, but it's not like we're really losing anything. And it's unfortunate. I think, what is he at, 27 million for 3 quarters? Not so bad. So as far as feeling any sympathy or anything, I don't, but I understand, man. I have a specific take on this. I don't know if we want to go into the virus and our views and everything like that. So I'll keep it out of there unless you prompt me to do so. But I do understand, and I'm not mad at him, but I think we're going to be fine, although disappointing,
Matt, what's your take on the whole Pj Mosley opt-out?
Yeah, so for me, pretty much along the same lines as what Green Bean was saying. I don't think that it's going to drastically change things. I mean, obviously, having a Pj Mosley like player on your defense is a major plus. He's like having another coach out on the field. So of course they would be better, with him on the field. But like Green Bean said, he played essentially 2.5 healthy quarters for the Jets in 2019. And now you don't have him at all for 2020. So we were kind of used to this from last year. They were still a top 10 defense in defensive DVOA. I think that, obviously it won't be what they could have potentially been, but I still think they will be a more than capable defense with Avery Williamson and either Patrick Onwuasor or Neville Hewitt or James Burgess in that other slot on the inside linebacker position.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I fall as well. I mean, yeah, we didn't have CJ Mosley for the majority of last year. Basically nothing of last year. And $27 million for 3/4 of play is a real kick in the nuts. But if you look across this defense, yes, we lost Jamal Adams. We bring in Bradley McDougald. And that's clearly, I think, a downgrade there. Cornerback-wise, I think we're improving. I think Tremaine Johnson and Darryl Roberts, I don't think we're going to get worse play out of our, Desir and Bless Austin and, Bryce Hall when he's, kind of filtered in there. We got Brian Poole back. So not really an issue in the secondary. Up front, Quinn Williams has a second year under his belt. I'm not really beat up about losing Leonard Williams because we saw how good that unit could play towards the second half of last year when he was no longer on the team. And then with the linebacking core, we lost CJ Mosley and we lost Avery Williamson last year. We're getting Avery Williamson back. So in a weird roundabout way, we actually improved, even though CJ Mosley is going to be out for this entire season. One thing that's really interesting to me is the way it works in terms of contracts and the way this contract tolls, how it hits us, because we paid out a $10 million roster bonus to CJ Mosley already. So we are getting hit with that $10 million cap hit. But next year, since his contract tolls, we're only going to be on the hook for $7.5 million. So we actually, in a weird roundabout way, kind of do all right, at least for next season. I mean, obviously, instead of being able to get out of this contract in 2022, it's now 2023. So there's going to be a little bit of talk, probably, I would think, of ways we might be able to get out of it if we don't like the contract. Now, I think I want to keep CJ Mosley on this team as long as he's staying healthy, but he's going to be tied to this team now till he's like 32, 33 years old, which is right around when we got rid of David Harris when he was all said and done. I think he was 32, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think there's anything in terms of the way our team is built or constructed that could cause issues with this contract tolling? Green Bean, I'll kick it to you first with that sort of question.
Well, I think this is where we're going to see all the benefits of what Joe Douglas has been doing. I mean, look, I've been a Jets fan since 9 years old, which is back in the 80s. You know what I mean? So I've been here a long time. I am hardwired since free agency started to get the big names and spend the big money and all that sort of stuff. But we're not doing that. And if the salary cap does in fact drop to 175 million. There was an article that came out yesterday. We're like, what is it, fourth best situation in the entire NFL? This is where we're going to see he's going to have flexibility to actually, in the event CJ Mosley's contract and Bell and all these guys, it's like we're going to end up keeping them on the books. We're still fine. And I think seeing what he's done this last offseason with all the one-year contracts, and look, and those contracts are ridiculously positive for us. Poole, I thought, was going to be getting at least 7, 8, 9 million a year. Jenkins, same thing. We were talking about 10, 11 million for a guy like Jenkins. So the fact that he got both of those guys, I think Jenkins, 3.5, Poole was 5. That's on that side of things, having contracts like CJ Mosley's still being attached to it, and even Bell for that matter, if we choose to keep him. It's not even going to be an issue because of what Joe Douglas has done. And this is where we're going to see an actual GM, what it's like to actually have one who can manipulate contracts and stuff and be able to still bring in players, but retain our own that are worth retaining. I think it's going to be fine.
Matt, what do you think about the whole team building process with this contract tolling? Does it create any issues for the Jets moving forward?
Yeah, not really. I don't think they're going to run into many issues. They have a ton of cap space going into next year. They can create even more cap space for themselves if they wanted to. Like Green Bean mentioned, you could theoretically get out of the Le'Veon Bell contract. and you could get out of some of the other offensive lineman contracts, like the Fant deal you can get out of, Greg Van Roten you can get out of for very little, cap hit. So you can create space if you need it. And even if they didn't do that, I still think they would be fine. And with all the draft assets that Joe Douglas just acquired, I think he's put himself in a really good position. So where he could be flexible with the roster, whether it be, creating the cap space with cuts and adding in free agency and the draft, or if you want to use some of those draft picks and trade for a player who, can help you this year and beyond. He could do a lot of different things. And I think he put himself in a position where he could be extremely creative. So I'm not really worried too much at all.
Yeah, it's a huge point that you guys bring up in terms of our cap flexibility for next year. So I'm looking at over the cap. Right now it has us at $41 million in cap space this year. I don't know if that's a fully accurate number. I thought we were around 30 million. But it says 40 million. And then for next year, the projected cap, if it does go down to 175 million, which is the floor that it could be, you're talking, what is that? About $30 million plus the 40 that rolls over. So you're talking like $70 million in cap space. That's before, if you decided to move on from Bell, that's 9.5 million. Jamison Crowder's 10 million. Henry Anderson, 8.2. So there is a ton of money for the Jets to really go out and make some big moves. It's going to be interesting. The Mosley contract is fascinating for me because I think you still need a leader on that team as long as, everyone respects Mosley and everything, and they want to have him on the team. I kind of thought that maybe Mosley and Bell would be the two victims of a potential cap cut because of what's going on with Gase possibly not liking the size of the contract that Bell got, or Mosley, we overpaid by like $3 million for the guy, and we've gotten virtually no return on that investment right now.
Right.
So I think we're probably going to hold on to at least Mosley. Bell, I hope we hold on to. With this much cap space, there's no reason to really move on from the guy. Now, is there anyone you guys are kind of eyeing, looking towards free agency, that we could spend some of this cap space on? Matt, I'll kick it to you first.
Yeah, I definitely think the two positions that I'm going to look to add in both free agency and the draft is wide receiver and edge. You have names like Juju Smith-Schuster, Allen Robinson. I'm a fan of both of those guys. I think both would be significant adds to the wide receiver room. And friend of the show, Yannick Ngakoue is technically a free agent after this upcoming year, so maybe you pay him if he hits free agency.
Green Bean, what about you? Who do you think you kind of have your eye on in terms of free agency for next year?
Well, it's one of those things. This is why it's both cool and unfortunate to hang out with you guys. It's like the people that he just said. That's Juju Smith-Schuster. I think that's I don't want to say a foregone conclusion, but I think that is a very strong likelihood to take place because of the previous relationship, the positive comments that have been said concerning Sam Darnold. I think that's likely. I love Allen Robinson. And I don't know what's going to happen with Ngakoue this year, but no matter what happens, he's a free agent next year. So I think that depending if he's going to be a 21 million, contract, kind of guy, I could see Joe Douglas really liking a player like Yannick Ngakoue. And I would love to see him brought on board. That's one of the guys that I think is worth just edge rusher in general, and somebody who's consistently produced, not a flash in the pan 1 year looking for the big contract kind of guy. This is somebody who's done it his entire career. And like Matt, I think said last time we were on his or maybe it was on his podcast, his worst year was 8.5 sacks. That's a floor for him. And I like the way Matt put that. And it really shapes it in a way that's very positive. This is a guy, Jenkins having 8 sacks was, that's his ceiling, pretty much, more than likely. And Yannick Ngakoue, 8.5 is his floor. More than likely, you're going to see consistent double-digit sacks. So I'd like to see him brought on. But one of the things I wanted to, off what you said, Ryan, is that with Bell, I'd like to see him brought back too, depending on what happens this year, of course. But it's interesting. Gase has been saying more than a couple times recently this past month, positive things concerning Bell. And I think their relationship might be changing. And I think the relationship isn't as bad as the press has kind of made it out to be. But Gase is a weird guy and said weird things, so I can understand it being that way. But I can see Bell having a really good year with the new offensive line if that does in fact gel. And I can see if Bell has one of those really good years, 1,200 yards rushing, 500 to 700 yards receiving, I could see Bell staying with us, and Gase and him being really, that relationship being more positive than we originally thought. And that would be great to see Bell stick around and be the Jets running back as opposed to this guy who stopped in for a little while and is gone. We can get a lot of cap space, but I'd like to see that, and I think there's reason to believe that might actually take place. So that'd be cool too.
Yeah, I was big on the Le'Veon Bell signing. I was like all about it when we signed him, over a year ago now, and I hope we held on to it. So for me, when I'm looking at free agency and I'm kind of thinking of that sort of stuff, you guys both hit the nail on the head with Juju Smith-Schuster. I think that has a very high likelihood of happening. We have the money, we have the desire. It's one of those things where if we pay a wide receiver right now, by the time Mims needs a contract in 3-4 years, you have the money because Juju's probably off the books at that point. So I really like that idea. Allen Robinson, I don't have a problem with. The connection isn't there for me as far as Sam Darnold goes. But the other player that I love in Ndakwe, I would absolutely love that move. My player that I would like to go after would be Joe Thuney from the Patriots. Getting the young guard. I want to say he's like going to be 27 maybe next year. And that is just absolutely huge. The guy doesn't get penalties. He's rock solid. He's always healthy. If you have him on, like, let's call him, I don't know, is he a left guard or a right guard? Whatever it is. If you have him, you have your center, you have your left tackle all figured out. Now you go into the draft not needing a wide receiver, not needing really an early offensive lineman. Then you go and you try to get your edge rusher and your cornerback maybe in round 1. Round 2, maybe you go for like a right tackle, and then you can kind of go from there on out. I like, going into next year, Crowder is someone that we could, in theory, move on from. I don't think we will. I think we'll probably let his contract play out. But that's someone you're going to have to find a replacement for at some point. So you have the flexibility with the 2 first-round picks, with the second-round pick, 2 third-round picks. You have the 2 fifths. So there's a lot of darts to kind of throw at this dartboard, which I guess sort of segues me into possibly the next point. I don't know if we have any more comments on free agency, but we can kind of. All right. So the other thing we want to talk about is the potential of no college football season. We heard, the Big Ten and was it the Pac-12? They were talking about not having season or delaying it till the spring. Most of these big time players are probably going to be opting out of that spring season and foregoing it to practice for the combine, and I'm sure they'll still have their pro days and get ready for the NFL draft. So I don't think you'll see the top recruits playing in that if they do have it. But how does this impact, our trade with Seattle, or how does this impact how we approach the draft? Green Bean, I'll kick it to you. What do you think of the potential of no college football season?
Well, this is the thing with that. Obviously, it would suck. I understand why, and I understand the reality. I have no difficulty swallowing the whys of it, right? That said, it would obviously it damages the Jamal Adams trade a little bit in my head, and I could see Seattle Seahawks supporters and or even their organization feeling like they had the presence of mind and the foresight to kind of get a proven commodity and in a year when it's the best year, so to speak, to give away first round pick. Maybe that all said, I gotta say, maybe I'm drunk with Joe Douglas Kool-Aid, but I feel like he's the type of evaluating GM and his infrastructure with Phil Savage being so closely tied to college football, with running the Senior Bowl, and obviously Rex Hogan and what's the guy that came over from Baltimore? Forget his name. But anyway, these guys are top shelf talent evaluators, and if you think that they don't already know a lot about the guys that are going to be in the draft next year, I think we might even have a leg up on other organizations like the Jets and who they used to be. You see the sun, Jesus. But so I feel pretty good in our organization. I think it would be damaging. Obviously, there are guys that maybe were just about to put it all together and have that Josh Allen type of senior season with 16 sacks and all that. So guys, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to identify those guys, but I feel pretty good in our staff to be able to know and have a strong idea on who's coming out. So I see it as a positive, at least from our organization out.
Matt, what about you? What are you thinking on the topic?
Yeah, I think you could definitely spin it as a positive towards the Jets because theoretically, like let's say there is no college football season and there's still a draft. This is an advantage to the talent evaluators, the ones who are really good at what they do. The Mike McCagnons of the world, this is their worst nightmare. They want no part of this because they need all the help that they can get. But if you are all in on Joe Douglas and saying he's the guy, he knows how to scout, he knows how to find talent, then it shouldn't matter if there's a college football season or not. Obviously, it's better if there is one, but I'm not necessarily worried with everyone on the same playing field. It's not like there's just no college football season for only the Jets. All 32 teams are dealing with the same thing. And I'm confident that our general manager is in the top half of the league in terms of GMs. So I think it's in the Jets' favor.
Yeah, look, I think that no college football season is tough for a lot of reasons. You don't have that extra year to evaluate players. I think with quarterbacks, it's probably going to be a little more critical because you don't get that extra year of growth to watch. Luckily, the Jets are not going to be in that boat, regardless of what Joe Beningo would have you believe with the whole Trevor Lawrence comments and everything. I would say this. I'm on the same page with you guys as far as this is a positive for our regime now that we seem to be more of a draft-centric organization with Joe Douglas, Phil Savage, who used to run the Reese's Senior Bowl. God, Todd McShay is best friends with Joe Douglas. They roomed in college together, so I'm sure there's a little bit of dialogue back and forth with them as well. So I'm not as concerned as I would have otherwise been. And here's kind of why also. You got to think all 32 teams are relatively in the same boat. We're all, if you kind of figure all GMs are about even, then you have, okay, there's going to be really good players in this draft that are going to fall further than they would have. There's going to be really bad players that get drafted higher than they should have. Well, the Jets get 2 cracks at it. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's going to be, I'd rather the 2 cracks at that. And not to mention the top, I would say, I don't know if it's 50, the top, 30 guys. We all kind of have an idea of who they're going to be. And the draft scouts have been watching these players since freshman year. So they watch a ton of tape all the time. It's basically all they're going to be doing the entire season anyway. And where you're really going to have an issue, I think, is these later rounds, these 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks, which are pretty much always a crapshoot anyway. You don't really know what it's going to be. So for me, I see it as not the worst thing. What I am secretly, I shouldn't say secretly hoping for because I'm really not. I want there to be an NFL season, but how great would it look if the Jets trade Jamal Adams and now we get 4 games into the regular season and they cancel the season and now Seattle loses that cheap year of Jamal Adams' contract and we get their first round pick anyway. It doesn't really matter to us. We basically sold him at his highest possible value because there's no way he would have duplicated the stats he had last year against this schedule. I am drinking the Kool-Aid on Joe Douglas. I think this guy is absolutely phenomenal. So I'm not worried about this. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I just wish we had a little more tape on the guys from a YouTube perspective for us to actually watch because we don't necessarily get the the all 22 film or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I just to put a bow on my thoughts on this, I'm not worried. Joe Douglas is someone who I weirdly have a lot of faith in. Usually I don't say that with people running the Jets show, but I think he proved this past offseason and draft that he's got his head on his shoulders.
So, Mike, thank you for the super chat. He says, I think the NFL needs to move to an online streaming setup, a pay pre-game system, especially with bars closing. No one wants satellite. That's a good idea. I mean, I think there's been a big push in recent years for NFL Red Zone, and I know they don't really release all their numbers. So when they were saying viewership is kind of declining in some capacity. The viewership on Red Zone, with people getting that and watching 4 games at once, or every score, or everything like that, I think it makes a lot of sense for the NFL to do this. I think if they could set up a successful streaming service that will allow you to get the games, now that TV contract that they're bidding on with NBC, Fox, ABC, ESPN, whoever's bidding on these TV deals, it's going to drive the price straight up if this is successful for them. So Matt, what do you think about the idea of a streaming setup for football games?
Yeah, I mean, the way the world is going, everything is becoming more, digital friendly. So I definitely am for this. And I think from the NFL's perspective, you want to put your product in front of as many people as possible. And if you're opening up that opportunity where people can now stream your games and they could pick and choose which games they want to see, rather than, oh, well, I'm stuck with the 4:25 game on CBS because I live in New York and I can't get to see Patrick Mahomes play on the West Coast. You don't have to deal with that. You can get, the casual fan who wants to watch the big stars tune in and pay essentially to see those games. I think it makes sense. I really do.
Green Bean, what about you?
I remember a time that if you, like, even for Jets and Giants, like if you were too far away, and like if you were down in South Jersey and it was Philly or something, like that was it. You couldn't do it. You couldn't see the game. It was a terrible time, and I tell you what, it kept a lot of people living in the near where their team's television, where they could be seen on TV. But I think, yeah, man, I think it makes a ton of sense. Number one, I love Red Zone. It actually stopped me from watching, buying direct TV. I used to buy the package and everything and watch all the games. But I got to tell you, watching Red Zone is like just watching the most exciting game in the world. It just never stops. It's always, the exciting part of the game. And sometimes
it's like 7 hours.
Yeah,
right. 7 hours of straight action.
A 7-hour game of scoring, and they're in the red zone. They're on the 10. So that kind of thing. I think it makes a ton of sense. Like Matt said, I mean, it's moving towards a digital world. I mean, I'll tell you what, I haven't had cable in years now. I stream everything, man. I don't even know. I was at a campsite the other day, and we had free cable. So we just plugged in the cable and said, and within 20 minutes, I'm like, what is this? All these friggin' commercials and all this sort of stuff. So, I mean, I stream everything anyway. I haven't watched a commercial in years. I don't know what this is. So I think the NFL is going to move that way, and I think it's smart to do it. I just think that their deal with DirecTV depends on how much they're paying them, man. Because if it's lucrative enough, they'll keep it, and they'll keep their own dogs at bay, not to push the DirecTV thing aside. It's all money, so we'll see how it goes. But I think it's good.
Yeah, look, I haven't had cable now for, God, it's got to be close to 4 years at this point, and I, like you guys, at least Green Bean, I stream the games. It's not, always the best. Like, I do miss cable occasionally, but by and large, I only had it for sports anyway. So why am I paying over $100, $150 a month when I could just have internet and still catch everything I need to catch? Right. I think the digital world is something that leagues and TV stations are going to have to embrace, and you've seen it with Disney Plus. You've seen it with what is it, CBS Now or ABC Now or whatever these. I think there's Peacock TV, and like literally every channel is becoming a streaming service. So it's like, I remember back in the day, everyone saying like, "Oh man, I wish I could just get cable, but only the 10 channels that I watch." And that's basically what's happening now. But you're paying the same price as cable with if you get every single one of these streaming services. So it's a little wacky. But if I could subscribe to an NFL streaming service and just have that and not have to have cable, I would sign up for that. In a heartbeat. It's not, I wouldn't think twice about it.
100%.
All right, I guess we could let's go to the phones. Let's see what people are thinking out there. I'm going to throw the number up on the screen in just a second when I figure out what I'm doing wrong here. Bam. Phone number. Oh, I know what I did. I put it below the green bar. There it is. Oh. Now it's above the green bar. See, this is what happens when I try to edit on the fly. All right, phone numbers on the board. Let me pull up the phone itself. All right, guys. Remember, keep your questions brief because I have to reiterate them to our panel here, and they are not going to be able to hear your questions. So it's all on me trying not to butcher this each time. But yeah, I like the streaming service idea. I mean, I guess let's recap everything we just kind of went over. CJ Mosley opting out, not the worst thing in the world for the Jets. No college football season, kind of sucks. Not the worst thing for the Jets because of our new regime. And, I'm not against the streaming service idea. We got our first caller on the line. Who we got?
T-Jazz.
T-Jazz, what's good, brother? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Ryan, how about you?
I'm hanging in there. Another beautiful day in paradise. What's on your mind, brother?
I made a video on this earlier today, so I got a question for you and Green Bean. What are your guys' stat predictions for Sam Darnold? And, Ryan, I think you need to look in the chat because this Blake kid is saying a lot. All right, peace out, brother.
Ooh, good stuff. Take it easy. All right, so he says we should look at the chat because this Blake kid is saying a lot. I don't know what he's saying. What's up with these toxic Jet fans? Oh, God. Maybe I'll put him in timeout. Let's see. How do I put him in timeout? Let's see. Bam, 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 bam. I don't know how to do that. Report,
I just
move. I hit him. We'll hide him for a little bit. Get everyone else talking. All right, so what T-Jazz was asking was, I know Matt just made a video about it in terms of Sam Darnold's stats, but what are we kind of thinking for Sam Darnold year 3? Matt, I'll have you lead off since you've done a little bit on this already.
Yeah, so what I did today was I looked at what league average was at each key statistic, like passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, completion percentage, stuff like that. And I think Sam is going to be league average or better in most of these categories. I think yards-wise, 4,000 would be nice. I think I'm expecting at least 3,800. If it's anything less than 3,800, I'll be a little disappointed, I think. Probably a completion percentage around 64, 65%, 26 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 93 to 95 passer rating, something like that along those lines.
Green Bean, what are you thinking about for Mr. Sammy Darnold for this year?
Well, I just made a video where I talked about this, so I can't possibly disagree with myself. So I'll say the same things, although I do it daily anyway. But I said 4,080 yards, 34 touchdowns, 11 picks, and 2 rushing touchdowns. That's what I see. I see it as realistic. I think Sam Darnold is gonna float around 4,000 yards for the large part of his career if he plays the full season. I don't even see it as a problem. I think he's going to do that. All he needs is protection, and we're starting that. We have a GM that understands that. We got him some weapons. There's question marks around him, but they're there. We got Perryman. Crowder, we know, is a commodity. Herndon, there's question, but we know him. He's a good player if he's out there. Mims, I'm a huge believer in Mims, as you guys know. I think these guys are going to be lights out, and Bell's going to be Bell again. So I see 4,000 yards, no problem.
All right, so let's look at Sam's stats the last 2 years. Last year, 2 years ago, rookie season, remember he played 13 games both these years. Last year had the mono, so that would definitely play a factor in this. 2,800, a little over 2,800 yards, just below 2,900 yards. 17 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Last year, 3,024 yards, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. So for me, I'm looking at kind of where you guys are. I think 3,800 yards, if he plays a full 16-game season, is definitely in the cards. I think if we get the first full 16-game season out of Sam, I agree with you. I think we're going to crack 4,000. That would break Joe Namath's passing yard record for the Jets. And then if we get 30 touchdowns, I don't know if I hope we get 30 touchdowns. That would basically be an extra 11 on top of what we got last year. But that would break Fitzpatrick's touchdown record for the Jets. So he would be setting a lot of records. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say 4,000 yards. I think he gets the passing record for the Jets. I'm going to say 25 touchdowns. And I'm going to say probably 15 interceptions. I think Sam's still going to have a pretty high interception rate because he's going to play a little bit of hero ball here and there. I mean, maybe he cuts it down on it a little bit because he gets Herndon back. He has a little bit more of a safety blanket with both a Perriman and a Mims, as opposed to just like a Robbie Anderson. But that would be a successful season for me if I could, as long as we see him improve year over year and we see a better understanding of the offense. It sounds like, from what we've heard from camp and a little bit of like the little interviews here and there, it sounds like the players are understanding Gase's playbook a lot more. I know Le'Veon Bell came out and said something similar. He's just like, this is the hardest playbook I've had to learn, in in all my years playing football. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that growth is going to be there, and I think the offensive line is just so huge. I mean, you look across the line. Alex Lewis is returning, that at the very least is probably a net same. McGovern's an upgrade. Becton, I mean, even if we say he's at Beacham's level, that's still solid. And then you got Fant, who's got to play better than Udoga, and then Van Roten. When your floor is, Brian Winters, I think we're all pretty happy with our line across the board. I think it should give Sam more time. It should give more holes open for Le'Veon Bell. So I think it gives us, our offense, a lot more opportunities just to be on the field more. Not even just on like a play-by-play basis where, like, say we have the same amount of plays. Like, if you could sustain drives longer, these numbers are going to shoot up. We had so many drives where it was like 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Where it was just, we could have had way more yardage than we actually got out of it. You guys have anything more to add before we try to jump to the next caller?
No, let's go to the next one.
All right, let's see. Phone lines are open. Guys, remember, keep the questions short because I have to reiterate our question to the panel, and I'm not going to remember your full question if you rattle on for too long. Guys, if you are not subbed up to Green Bean or Matt, their links are in the description down below. Make sure you sub these guys up. They put out awesome Jets content on a weekly basis here. All right, we got our next caller on the line. Jake, what's good, dude? How you doing?
Ryan, 2 days in a row. How you doing, sir?
I love it. What's on your mind, brother?
Actually, I have a question for Leary, so I'm not trying to ostracize anyone, but in a video he actually talked about Pj Fleck as a potential head coaching option in case we can't Gase. So I kind of wanted Matt to have, since he's on the floor with the whole group tonight, to maybe talk a little bit more about why he should justify that, because in my opinion, he's right. He sounds a lot like Matt Rule, and I know he loves Matt Rule. So I'm going to hang up now, but I wanted to maybe elaborate a little bit. So go ahead.
All right, good stuff. So he's asking about Pj Fleck, the head coach from Minnesota. He knows Matt's been very high on him. He's big on the whole Matt Rule train and someone that could really coach guys up. In the event the Jets move on from Adam Gase at the end of the year, how do we feel about this? I'll be honest, I don't know a crazy ton about him. I pulled up his Wikipedia page just so I could have some information here. But what do you guys think of him? Obviously, with Joe Douglas kind of making some of these moves, we have more draft picks. We have one of the higher cap space rankings in the NFL. So this could be a very attractive landing spot for a potential head coach to bring in guys that he really wants. Matt, we'll start with you. What do you think about Pj Fleck?
Yeah, he's an intense guy, man. He really gets his players motivated. To me, he seems more along the lines of like a player's coach who isn't really focused on one side of the ball in particular heavy, offense versus defense. But I really like how he can go to a program and build it up. He's kind of, the comparison to Matt Rule, I think, is there in that regard. And I'm not opposed going the college route. I would definitely be a fan of him. He seems like the next, hot name from the college, moving up the ranks to the NFL. I really like Pj Fleck a lot. I think I would take a shot on him for sure.
Green Bean, how are what's your thoughts on Pj Fleck? Do you know anything about him, or what's your thought process?
I have to defer to O'Leary here, man. If he likes him, I like him. But I don't know much about the guy to comment. One thing I will say, though, is that I trust Joe Douglas. In the event Adam Gase needs to go, and Matt, your recent video about, their friendship not being quite to the degree that people make it out to be, I think is accurate. And so if Adam Gase is floundering, he will be let go. I don't have any fear of that. And if he does, I trust Joe Douglas to do to perform actual due diligence. And it's not just going to be a hot name for the sake of a hot name. I think he'll actually get somebody in here that is best for what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that it'll be fine. If it's Pj Fleck, I hope they call O'Leary to get some intel on him.
All right, so let's go over a little bit about Pj Fleck right now. So he was, in his playing career, he played for the San Francisco 49ers back in 2004 and 2005 as a wide receiver. He is 53-37 as a head coach. He has his awards all MAC 2003, so obviously as a player. And then his awards as a coach, he is two-time MAC Coach of the Year in 2014, 2016, and Big Ten Coach of the Year last year. He's 3-2 in bowl games, and he's made stops along the way. Ohio State in, I don't know what I'm looking at right there, Northern Illinois, Rutgers. He was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2012, Western Michigan from 2013 to 2016. He's been with Minnesota now from 2017 until now. So it looks like he's got some experience under his belt. I like that he's got an offensive background. I think that's something you have to kind of dip into in this day and age in the NFL. I like the offensive-minded head coach with the defense heavy, like a Greg Williams. Like, I feel like we could keep Greg Williams on staff if we were to bring in someone like Pj Fleck, because you have some sort of consistency with Joe Douglas, with the team. You have kind of a vocal leader in the locker room with Greg Williams. So this seems like a move that makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of guys are probably going to chime in with Eric Bieniemy. That's going to be a hot name. But I think just from like a rough perspective, if we went with Pj Fleck or Bieniemy, I think either one would be really good. I do like the college route. I think that a player's coach is something you kind of need in this day and age, and then Greg Williams can kind of be that disciplinary, factor, at least for the defensive side of the ball. So overall, I think our panel, pretty much likes what we see out of Pj Fleck from the outside looking in. I'd have to do a little more research. I don't know as much as Matt does on this topic, so I will defer to his judgment as well. Guys, phone lines are open. If you want to call in and ask us a question, just make sure to keep your question short, because I'm going to have to reiterate it to the panel, and it could be a little tough for me to do that. All right. Kostas Katsolis, thank you for the super chat. He says, I know that free agency is far away, but I really like David Bakhtiari and Kenny Galladay. If we have a promising season, I think we can have a shot. So what do you guys think about, I have no idea who David Bakhtiari, or however you pronounce that name, is. Yeah. So Kenny Galladay, I like him. I guess, Matt, let's I'll kick it to you first in terms of that. I got to look up a little bit about David there.
Yeah, Bakhtiari is a offensive tackle for Green Bay. He's an All-Pro 2 years ago and a Pro Bowler last year. He's solid. He's a solid tackle. I love Kenny Galladay. I'm hoping that Denzel Mims can turn into Kenny Galladay in a year or two from now. But I think Galladay is a great receiver. I'm all about making life as easy for Sam Darnold as possible. So if you're telling me I can get these two for Sam, absolutely, I'm all over it.
I think they could both be relatively cheaper options compared to where we were kind of going, because I think Juju's probably going to be a pretty heavy potential commodity. Same with Robinson. And then I was saying Thuney before. That's not going to be a cheap deal. You're talking probably $15 million a year for him. I don't know what Bakhtiari is going to wind up getting, but hey, I'm all about it. Green Bean, what are your thoughts on the tackle and the wide receiver?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, like he said, it is far away, and we don't know what's going to happen this season to change things. Whether it's the player getting extended by their current team or injury or whatever. But I think Galladay is a name that a lot of people know. He's been effective. I would prefer. I like him, and if we went that route, I'm not going to be complaining. I would prefer to bring in a Schuster and then still go with using one of those first round picks on a receiver, or maybe another second round pick, and just keep the pipeline with young receivers. I'm really liking the fact that we have so much draft capital. I think free agency, um, should if we're going to use it, but I really like the idea of bringing these younger players in and not being dependent on free agency. If you're going to bring in a Joe Thuney, like you said, that's going to be a big contract. Fantastic. Offensive line, wide receiver, maybe cornerback, things like that. But I would like to see a young pipeline of guys coming in for these types of roles, and rather than depending on free agency. I think free agency should be like the fill-in spots, depth and things like that, as opposed to really being dependent upon the guys from other teams coming here and reproducing. Second and third contracts scare me. With these types of guys, like like we saw with Tremaine Johnson and so many others, we bring them in here, we pay them all kinds of money, and they end up just kind of sitting back or just not being the guy that we hope. I want to see young, hungry guys like Mekhi Becton, who's excited. You see when he's posting on social media, that guy is amped. He wants to be here. They're going to create a new culture here, and I would like to see guys coming in. Using those 2 first-round picks, one on an edge, one on a receiver kind of a thing, and just developing, young pipelines, like I said, as opposed to the big name.
So I pulled up a little bit of stats on the tackle. I'm going to butcher his name, Bakatari. So in his, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year career, he has missed a total of 4, 5, 6 games. So the guy's been healthy for the most part. He started all the games that he's been available for. His Pro Football Focus grades, his overall grade is a 79, so that's really good. His pass block grade is nearly a 90, an 89.8. And if you look over the course of his career, his lowest year grade-wise was 2013 as a rookie. He graded out as the 47th tackle, then 36th, 19th, 6th, 2nd. Last year, he was ranked as the 14th tackle overall, so a slight dip there. But hey, if we can get that as our right side tackle, I would be very, very happy with that. Because you think offensive linemen, they're probably good. You could sign this guy to a 4-year deal, give him like 3 years. If he lives through like 3 years of that before we wind up moving on from him, that gives you time to maybe groom a Chuma Edoga, or to maybe draft a player in, say, the 2nd round or the 3rd round and really develop the replacement there. So yeah, I like it. That is a really good option. Hopefully, now let's see. Let me pull up what the Packers cap space is, because I don't exactly know what we're looking at from Green Bay's cap perspective. Because if he's that good, it's going to be hard for me to see him kind of walking away. So next year they are projected to have, actually, if they dip down to 175 million, they're going to have like 10 million in cap space. So it seems, unless they're going to be cutting guys, it's going to be rough goings for them. They have, it looks like Zadarius Smith they could move on from if they weren't to keep Devontae Adams, which I think would be, silly to let him go. They could move on from him to kind of create some cap space, but they're going to be up against the cap. So there's a real good shot that he winds up walking. And money-wise, you're probably going to have to pay him somewhere in the ballpark of $15 to $16 million. The last 2 years, he's made $14.2 and $14.7 million against the cap. So you got to figure that's going to go up a little bit if you were to test free agency. So great question over there, Costas. Charlie Gardner chimes in. He says, why do you guys think Juju isn't going to be extended? So the reason we don't think Juju is going to be extended is because I believe it was the Steelers. There's been reports saying that the Steelers don't have any interest in extending him. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Guys, what have you heard about the whole Juju Smith-Schuster rumors? Because I know, I've heard this name floated a lot.
Yeah. One, I don't think the Steelers are all that interested. Also, cap space is definitely an issue. They're going to have to pay TJ Watt eventually. Bud Dupree's a free agent after this year. Maybe you bring him back. Cameron Hayward's a free agent after this year. Villanueva, their starting left tackle, is a free agent after this year. They have a lot of guys that they need to retain. And I always think of Pittsburgh as a team who can find wide receivers just about anywhere. They just drafted – who'd they get in the draft this year?
Oh, they got our
a guy from
they
Notre
got
Dame.
my guy. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
The
Friggin'
tall
Claypool.
guy.
Claypool.
Yeah, there you go.
Claypool.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
So
right.
they'll probably try to groom him and maybe find a receiver elsewhere. I just don't see them spending big money to keep a wide receiver like Juju around.
Yeah, so if Juju, I don't know what the wide receiver contracts look like, currently offhand. I don't think he's going to get a crazy high deal, but I think he's going to get paid well. Next year, the Steelers, so right now they have $5 million in cap space that could roll over into next year. If the cap does dip down to $175 million, like a lot of people are kind of projecting it will, they are going to need to cut players just to have enough space to actually sign their draft class. Right now, Over the Cap has the cap projected as $215 million, which is not going to happen, and the cap's not going up. So it says they're at $24 million in cap space. So realistically, if that drops, say, what is that, 25, 35, it's going to drop $40 million from what this number is. They're going to need to cut a lot of players. They'd cut, I know Big Ben's kind of contemplated retirement, so maybe, that's really, really going to save the bulk of it. They could save $19 million from him. But outside of that, they'd have to cut Joe Hayden, Marquise Pouncey, just a lot of guys on that offensive line that are getting paid a lot of money. So I think Juju's really going to be hitting the open market. And then it also, it just doesn't seem like, I don't know. I feel like Juju wants to play with Sam. That's what I want to believe. I want him to want to come here. And I think the Jets have a pretty good shot at getting him. I really do. All right. Good question, Charlie. Good question. Let's open up the phone lines again. Guys, remember, keep your questions short because I have to reiterate to Green Bean and Matt because they're not going to be able to hear you because of the way I have this audio set up. I haven't quite figured out. I keep saying that. I should just figure out how to do it so that way you guys can actually listen to all these questions.
All good.
Yeah, I'll figure it out at some point. I wind up jumping on 15 minutes before the stream. I'll just do the same thing I did last week.
Yeah, it worked.
It usually works out. It's worked so far.
Yeah,
all right, we got a call on the line.
Bernard from North Carolina.
Bernard from North Carolina. What's up, dude? How you doing?
How you doing,
Long
Ryan?
time no
Long
talk.
time. Our time has been really messed up for a number of weeks. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. It's nice to be back on the panel with these two guys, and it's been some time. How are you doing? Did you guys get affected by the tropical storm that came up the coast?
Just a little residual stuff. A little rain, a little wind. That's been the crust of it. We've been lucky.
Mm-hmm. So what's on your mind?
Yeah. I got a good question. It's an interesting and hopefully a complex question because since we got the extra first-round picks for Jamal Adams, I'm intrigued about the possibility for 2021, 22. But I'm going to start with 2021, where I think is more reachable. What projected positions of strength will there be for 2021, and will it line up with the Jets? To me, it's wide receiver, edge rush, and offensive line. Thank you.
Ooh, great question, Bernard. Great question. So he's really excited for this upcoming draft and the 2022 draft with the Jamal Adams trade and the 2 first-round picks in both those years. And he's asking us what we think the positions of strength will be. I'm not going to say of the college football players because I feel like that could change a lot. But let's say based on where the Jets' needs are now and who we kind of know is coming out for next year, he mentioned wide receiver. I know was it Lamar Chase or the wide receiver from LSU is phenomenal. He is absolutely incredible as a wide receiver. So that lines up with the Jets' need. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these 2 first-round picks. Matt, I'll kick it to you first. What direction would you like to see the Jets go? I know a lot of it kind of hinges on what happens in free agency, but what's your kind of game plan for the draft?
Yeah, like you said, it kind of depends on what happens in free agency. But, there are some definitely, key positions the Jets still need to add. Wide receiver is one of them. You could address in probably both free agency and the draft. Offensive line, especially on the interior, I would look to add just because both the guards who are starting right now, they're not really long-term solutions. They're fine, in temporary, but after about 2 years, I don't know how comfortable you're going to be with Van Roten or Alex Lewis. So maybe you look for someone there. On the defensive side, man, I just really pretty much care about getting edge presence and corner help. Other than that, I'm trying to get as many assets on the offensive side of the ball as we can for our young quarterback.
Green Bean, what about you?
Yeah, man. I think, It's tough right now. I'm not a talent evaluator. I like to pretend I am, but that's not. It takes me. I do a lot. Like as we build up to the draft, I really look into these players and watch tape and all those kinds of things. Um, but positionally, I think Joe Douglas has prepped us for an edge rusher being our big first round pick next year. That's what I see. Um, and I think it's appropriate. I think that, and again, like was said, we have two first round picks, of course. So we're going to be able to have some flexibility. I think the guy from Miami, Rousseau, is how you say that, I think maybe. He's somebody I already like. I could see, some of these guys. I think from what I've heard, next year's edge rushers are a little bit more dynamic than we saw in 2020, and that bodes well for us. Last year, a lot of our needs, offensive line, wide receiver, those were our two biggest needs. That happened to be what the draft afforded us to take. That was what logically made sense. And I think next year we're going to see edge. As far as what I'd like to see, I think edge falls in there, like Matt said, corner. I don't want to see safeties and defensive tackles taken in the first couple rounds. I just think offensive line, wide receiver. I'd love to see another young running back brought in the mid rounds. And of course, long snapper. That's first round long snapper would be. It's been a long time coming, and I think it's time.
Get a holder in there too, maybe.
Exactly, a professional holder. Yeah, not a kicker that holds, a holder. Somebody knows what they're doing. Right, right.
Someone with good big fingers that can lock onto that ball as it comes out from that first round pick of a center or long
laces
snapper.
Out, 100% of the time, laces out. But yeah, man, and I think it's really going to be fun to see. And they were talking on the chat about when we were talking about Schuster that there's going to be a bidding war. The good thing is this: we don't have to worry about this. Joe Douglas is going to offer what he offers, and he's not going to get into a bidding war. And we've seen that, man. We're not going to see that, and I think we're going to be excited to see these guys' positional value being utilized and corresponding with the appropriate round. Now, if there's that Aaron Donald type of a guy like Quinn Williams, maybe something like that in the future happens, but I really don't see us in too much danger when it's the wide receiver draft taking a Calvin Pryor in the first round. I don't see us doing that stuff. We're going to see our needs being met just like last year. We needed a tackle, we took a tackle. We needed a receiver, we took a receiver. In the later rounds, we saw some shaking it up, a quarterback and some things like that. But Joe Douglas he sees what we need, and we're going to be able to applaud what he does. So I think free agency, again, we might have a big name or two, but he's going to offer what he offers. He's going to get outbid plenty, and he has to make the Jets attractive enough that we're the team that they choose. Just like Sammy Watkins came out and said in an article, they said, "Why'd you take less money to stay here?" He said, "Why the hell wouldn't I? I've been on losing teams. It's terrible. The money's fine, man. I'm going to stay where we win. We have a good time. We enjoy playing. It's like I don't need $2 more million a year to go be miserable." And that's what we're going to start seeing here, I think, with Joe Douglas rebuilding the team.
Yeah, look, draft wise, I think you guys hit it right on the head. A lot of it hinges on free agency and how that sort of pans out. But I would say edge rusher is definitely the top component that I would like to get into. I love Ngakoue. If you could rope him in, I think you got to try and target one big free agent at least, and whether that be Thuney or Juju or Ngakoue, I think if you could come away with one of those three, that would be huge. Edge rusher in the draft and corner are kind of the two spots that I'm sort of looking at. I don't really want to spend a first-round pick on a wide receiver. Not ideally. I mean, it all depends on who's there. Look, I was really high on CeeDee Lamb, this past year. I don't have a problem with taking a wide receiver. I just think positional value-wise, with the way the rules have kind of gone in the NFL, wide receiver has an easier time where, edge rusher is probably, you could argue, the second most important position on a team next to quarterback. Cornerback-wise, I like Bless Austin. I like, Bryce Hall. I like, for what Desir is, I like him. Brian Poole. But this cornerback room is still kind of up in the air. You don't know if Bless Austin's going to be healthy. You don't know if Hall is going to transition to the NFL the right way, because obviously he fell to the 5th round. Teams weren't that high onto him if he fell as far as he did, regardless of what fans kind of felt and whatnot. For the edge rush presence, I don't feel like we have a guy there. Jordan Jenkins is our de facto edge rusher right now, and that's not the best thing. I think him on that 1-year contract, I don't see him coming back next year unless he signs a similar deal like this. I think Zuniga could wind up shifting over onto that side, or Huff, one of these guys that we've brought in this offseason. And I think one of those guys can fill that role, but I think we still need the edge presence, whether that be an Ngakoue or a first-round pick. So good question, Bernard. I think that was rock solid. We're going to jump over to the phone lines. Guys, remember, keep your question short, because I have to reiterate our question to our panel, because they're not going to be able to hear you. Man, lots of good questions here today. Guys, if you have not liked this video, how many likes do we got on this video right now? Let me click over to here. We got 54 likes. We got to get this over 100 likes. We got 143 people in this stream right now. There's no reason we can't get up to 100 likes. Remember, guys, this helps the channel grow. It helps people who haven't tuned into the panel see all that, and they're like, wow, I really missed out on something. So throw us a like, and while you're down there in that whole kind of lower area of the video, make sure you sub up Green Bean and Matt. I know you guys probably have seen some of their content before. They are absolutely great Jets content creators out here, and we absolutely must support the entire panel. I very much like this. So Green Bean, have you had any alpacas try to spit at you? Are they kind of like camels? I've seen alpacas before, but
yeah,
I don't know if they have the same sort of stereotypical things that like a camel might have.
You know what? I'm gonna be real honest. I don't know what an alpaca is. I mean, I see them, but I don't know what that is. Aren't they llamas? That's what I thought. But
I've seen the Emperor's New Groove. That's basically. Oh yeah. Well, Green Bean was getting rained on a little bit pre-stream. He's just like, oh man, he's getting a little sprinkles.
Yeah,
I wish everyone could see the full. I wish everyone could see the full screen.
There you go.
Well, they can see your cloud, but when you tip your camera back down, on my Zoom window that I have Green Bean pulled up on, it's a wider screen, so you can actually see more of it. Green Bean, shift the camera around so they can see what exactly is behind you, because it's pretty funny. He's like in the middle. I don't know how you have Wi-Fi there. It makes no goddamn sense to me. He's in the Sahara.
That's insane.
No, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I am. I'm at the. What's the name of this ranch?
Starry Hollow.
I'm at the Starry Hollow Ranch, about an hour outside of Salt Lake City. And it is, I'm telling you, man, Utah's blowing my mind. I never knew how gorgeous it was here. I just didn't know. But yeah, dude, this place is something else. But I am in, literally, I bought a little hotspot. Look at this thing. Look at this still.
Ooh, very nice.
There you go.
Just got it
so
today.
I mean, your stream looks way better than it did 2 weeks ago. You're not glitching
Isn't
all
that
over
crazy?
the place. It's
I
perfect.
know, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. I was in the middle of Kansas. Or no, I was in Missouri, right? I was in Missouri that day. I know, I'm all over the place.
Everywhere. You've been all over.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it, man. I'm actually heading to Idaho tomorrow morning. And Idaho, who goes there? We're going to get some French fries in Idaho, and then head to Oregon, which is, the name Orida? That's Oregon, Idaho. Did you know that?
No.
Orida?
No.
Isn't that crazy?
Did not know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's right in the middle of it. It's like both.
Jacob K is saying in the chat, he said Green Bean is on that NASA Wi-Fi.
That's it, man.
He's basically on Starlink already. He's on Starlink before anyone else. Oh man, what else is going on?
Yeah, I know.
No, go on. I'm
No, it was like
babbling over here.
It's funny. My son, he's like, because I can see they're all around. He wants so badly to be able to hear it, but I'm on my headphones. He's like, come on. I'm like, if I put you guys out here, it's going to be noisy, and I keep muting myself. I don't know if you guys can hear all the wind and all that sort of stuff, but I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I was really looking forward to talking about this, but isn't it crazy? This would be preseason weekend, wouldn't it? Every other year. I know there's a lot of people that complain like, oh man, I hate preseason. Wouldn't you like some preseason football this weekend? You know what I mean? Come on. I'll tell you, you don't know what you have till it's gone, man. And training camp, it's just so weird. I'm so used to, arguing with people about, who looks good in practice and shorts and whatever else. And it's like, I miss it, man. I really do. I miss all that.
I'd kill to watch James Morgan throw right now, which is saying
Right? I know, me too, and I'm still pissed about that pick. And I'd love it. I'd watch him happily right now.
I just want to see Mekhi Becton start throwing around, like, because I would imagine Fant might start on like left tackle in the first beginning part of the preseason, and then Becton comes walking out. They're calling him the Green Monster, which is I love. It's absolutely fantastic, and I just want to watch him throw like backup players all over the place. Then I'll get really excited for when he starts doing that to starters. It's weird not having preseason right now. It's weird not getting the all the news we normally get out of training camp. I know Jet Nation, the forum that Green Bean and I are a part of, we have this guy that goes to training camp all the time, and he posts pictures and recaps of what he's seeing out there, and it's just weird not getting it. It's like almost a very, very quiet period for any kind of Jet news aside from like the opt-outs.
So listen, I'm going to switch computers right now. It's going to be smooth and seamless. Okay? But so here we go. How do we do it? Press return. Okay, watch this.
Go for it. Let's see what happens.
See what happens here. Am I in?
I don't think so, because I think our pictures are going to shift around.
All right, hold on. Oh, I'm sorry.
See.
I'm going to ruin it.
No, go for it. It's all right. I
have no power.
As long as we're good for the beginning. As long as we're good for the beginning part where like people see it, then it's like, they have to stay tuned in for like an hour before they start seeing the screen start jumping around.
Right. Are you getting my invite, Ryan? Or my
oh shit, that makes a lot of sense. I probably have to do that. Yes, I can admit you. Boom. Now we're gonna see Green Bean fly all over the place. Let's see where he looks. Oh, see, look, my mouse is on his face. I just admitted you, so you should be up. Okay.
Oh, I see something happening.
I see him. I'm gonna boot him from.
Look at me.
Let's see. How do I?
I'm gonna close out on the previous one. I'm gonna close me out.
All right. Let's see. Let's see what we got. Let's see him jump over. Boom! Green Bean. That was pretty seamless.
All things considered, that was pretty good.
Yeah. Can't complain. You got a little bit of the skippies, but not too bad.
You did all right.
Yeah, that's solid. That was impressive. I'm not gonna lie. Ooh, we got a caller on the line. Got a caller on the line. Let's see what we got. Let's see what the question is.
Josh.
Josh, what's good, dude? Welcome to Talkin' Jets.
What's up, Ryan? How are you today?
Oh, I'm having a fantastic night. It's good to be talking Jets with these guys and all you jamokes in the chat over there. How what's on your mind, brother?
So, everyone's like, if Gase doesn't do well, he's fired, that's it. But if Darnold doesn't do well, we still make excuses. He's still the guy. So, I just want to know, like, why? Why if Gase doesn't do well this year, you guys want him fired? But if Darnold has another year where he struggles and has his up and downs, you still want him back for another year?
Ooh, okay. Interesting question. So what he's saying is, why are we willing to give Sam Darnold a pass on a poor performance year potentially, but not give Adam Gase a pass? Green Bean, I'll kick it to you first. What are your thoughts on the whole maybe double standard that we possibly have going on here?
Well, interestingly enough, I'm actually not. I mean, I'm giving Gase a pass. I've made videos like I'm not the biggest Gase fan. I didn't want him. I'm not all that impressed. But I think last year, I don't know if anyone has dealt with a year like that guy had to deal with last year. And like I said in a few times, some videos and other times in this panel, Gase there are times that definitively he protected and took the bullets for his staff, namely when Greg Williams kept Avery Williams out there and he tore his knee. Gase said that he has nothing to do with the defense. Make no mistake of that. And he said that was his decision. He wanted to see something baloney, but he took the bullet for Greg Williams. When Sam Darnold came back and was wearing the flak jacket and they were afraid of his spleen and everybody was pissed, why aren't we running RPOs and all this kind of, he didn't say, well, look, guys, I can't, he didn't make an excuse. He just took the bullet. He said, that's my game plan. And so anyway, I've seen enough to at least give him the pass. But look, dude, as far as Darnold has earned a pass, when that guy gets time, I mean, there are all kinds of next gen stats and all kinds of stuff you can look at. When he has certain conditions around him, he's like one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. The guy had, and there were guys in his face within less than 2 seconds, man. That's not, you don't even complete a 7-step drop in 2 seconds. And there was already a defensive tackle in his face. So the guy, these guys do deserve a pass. And I know I'm going to hear it from O'Leary alone about the Gase stuff. But like I said, I don't love Gase, but I think that he did earn a pass, you know, and I think if he's 0-6, maybe the pass is over. I mean, your whole pass is being rejected. But from my particular standpoint, I think they both get a pass. Last year we had, 13 or 21 guys on injured reserve. I forget how many. But the last 8 weeks of the season or 7 weeks of the season, we had a guy, at least one on injured reserve every single week. I cannot remember that ever happening before. So what they dealt with last year, McCagnon's garbage offensive line and everything that we saw, I think that there was no one that could have succeeded last year. That's my take on it.
All right, Matt, so I will kick it to you. What do you think about the double standard we have with Sam Darnold and Adam Gase?
Well, one of them is 22 years old and has played 26 games. The other one has been a mediocre offensive coach for the last 5 years. So I think the sample size is a little bit bigger for Adam Gase. I know he was only with the Jets organization for one of those years. But realistically, he's been in the same division for the last 4 years. Yes, he went to the playoffs in his first year, but we saw significant regression the last 3 years. Has injuries been a part of that? Yes, but I don't think he's done a good job of elevating the talent on the roster. Or, like, for instance, you look at these teams who they turn to their backup quarterbacks who no one's ever heard of, and they can get something close to an NFL offense out of them. The Kyle Allens of the world, you know, for example, or no one expected anything out of Gardner Minshew, and he comes in and has a really solid year. Luke Falk looked like he's never seen a football in his life. I don't understand how we can go from one extreme to the other, and I know that specifically all isn't on Gase, but the reason why I'm not willing to give him a pass is because we've seen a significant sample size from him, where Darnold, we haven't. And I think until we see a significant sample size from Darnold, that we're not going to be able to, tell for sure whether he isn't the guy yet, just based off of 2 incomplete seasons.
Yeah, the whole Adam Gase thing, I tend to fall more on the green bean side of this. I was not an Adam Gase, I don't want to say supporter, but I wasn't for Adam Gase at the start of this. I was very much, when I heard that, I was just, oh, I can't believe we did that. Like, I wanted Mike McCarthy or Matt Rule. Either one would have been good. But with Adam Gase, I know the offense looked stagnant. It looked like there were guys that didn't know what was going on. I'm not crazy about what I saw in his time in Miami. Now, when he did have Tannehill in, when he does have Salmon, he's got a positive record overall. So I think there's some hope there. And for me, I look at what happened with Sam last year. He had mono. He had, he missed 3 games. We had the highest number, or maybe the second highest number of players on IR, and the amount of salary cap space that we lost from our team because of that money going onto IR. No one with that offensive line, no one with all those conditions. I forget if you bring in McCarthy, forget if you bring in Matt Rule. I don't see either one of those guys having, a 7-9 record, or at least like playing well enough where we can, or calling good enough games. I'm going to give Gase a pass for last year. That doesn't mean I'm giving him a pass for this year. My biggest fear is if we don't get a football season, or if we get, like, say, 4 or 5 games, we see some sort of, like, stagnant offense because the offensive line isn't gelling together. We start making all these excuses for Gase again, and then we wind up behind the 8 ball for another year, and we're playing this whole game of I don't know what's going on. With Sam Darnold, I don't have all the stats on him. I look at him, and I just see a few things here and there, and I'm like, he's the most talented quarterback I've seen in a Jet uniform, aside from like Brett Favre for like 11 games or something like that. It just seems like the guy just has it, and it's a weird intangible thing. He makes something out of nothing. I think we're going to see huge progression from him. And I did a video at the end of the season where I compared Sam's stats from year 1 to year 2, under Bowles and then under Gase. And oddly enough, as weird as it may sound and like as stagnant as the offense was, Sam improved in virtually every category. More touchdowns, less interceptions or less turnovers in general. Had an offensive line that I believe we were ranked like 15th or 16th in 2018. 2019, we were like 31st or 32nd. So with everything going against Sam, and think about mono. When you have mono, it's not like you're out for 3 games. This is a lingering thing that lasts with you for 2-3 months. It's not like he was like snapped back to, full health or whatever. I think we saw a lot of, I don't know. I'm willing to give Gase another year and really just sort of see what's going on. I don't have a problem if we move on from Gase after the season. I knew going into this year going into the end of last year, we weren't going to fire Gase. We were already paying Todd Bowles for 2020. We were paying Adam Gase for 2020 because head coaching salaries are fully guaranteed. So the Johnsons were not going to bring in a third, head coach and pay them. But now that Todd Bowles is going to be off the books after this season, and then depending on what we get out of Adam Gase, I could see us moving on. But ideally, I want Adam Gase to do well because that means Sam's staying in the same system. It means he's progressing in that system. And there's something to be said for having Peyton Manning, Frank Gore, Demaryius Thomas, players that have been around this league that have played at all pro caliber levels, all supporting Adam Gase. Like, yes, we've seen, Kenyon Drake and, Jarvis Landry, and all these guys kind of talk out about Gase, and it seems like he can't handle stars. Jamal Adams leaves. He calls, kind of takes shots at Gase on the way out. I don't know what to make of it completely, and I have this as my signature on Jet Nation, but my signature says, I reserve the right to change my opinion based on new information provided, and that is something I am thoroughly going to say. I'm cautiously optimistic. I will not say I have blind faith in the guy, but I'm cautiously optimistic based on some of the data that we have, even if the play calling was questionable at best at times last year.
I disagree.
Well, let me say, and Matt makes great. I mean, the sample size comparison is fantastic. So even if we just left it there, like to answer the original question, like why would you give Sam a pass and not Gase? That answers the question right there. I mean, that literally is the answer. That all said, and it's funny, and I know Ryan's in the same basket as me here. Like, I don't like Gase. I have a difficult time seeing him as the guy to overtake the Reeds and Belichick's of the world. It's hard for me to imagine that. That said, when we talk about going to Luke Falk, I mean, he went from Sam Darnold to Luke Falk in 4 days. Let's not forget, he went to Simeon, and then Simeon breaks his leg, and that just goes along. At the end of the year, I mean, I'm not even to get there, but like that offensive line was so bad. Luke Falk, number one, shouldn't have even been playing. Okay, but like you said, he should have looked like he's seen a football field before. But that type of a player getting rushed like he was, and there was blood in the water. They were sending him. There's no way to succeed like that. There's just no way to succeed. So that's why I will give Gase a pass. I'm curious to see a guy like Peyton Manning. The reason why he likes Gase, from what I understand, is that Peyton Manning is so incredibly intelligent and analytical when it comes to play calling and offense and all that kind of stuff. Gase was one of the only people that he's ever been around that could hang with him. So Gase, and like you hear these guys saying, like Bell, this is the most complex. It's raining bad. This is the most complex offense that he's ever played in. I'm sorry, guys. It just started pouring on me. I'll hold up. I'll be right here. This is still good. Wait, here we go. Where's some light? So a lot of players, they look at that as somebody, like a lot of people who don't understand, they can look at that and have difficulty with it and think the guy's just spinning his wheels. And like we talked about last time, there was another Jets coach who had the same kind of reputation, Joe Walton. He was one of the most brilliant offensive minds to ever, up to that point in the game. The problem is nobody can understand it. So it ended up being he was a loser. If you're too smart, are you really that smart, right? If you can't get people to understand it. So that's what we have to see. We got guys that Gase likes. We got some guys that Gase wanted. He was a part of the draft. Joe Douglas got guys that are supposedly Gase types of guys. The offensive line is all a specific type that Gase likes. If he can't do it this year, if he can't show improvement, then he's gone. It's that simple. If he does, though, and this is where people say we get stuck in mediocre. If we're 8-8 and we look improved, does that mean that we should still keep him? And that is a question. It's like, shit, now, we give another year and he's going to be 8-8 and we stay floating around mediocrity. I don't know, but I do think that he's earned this year. That's what I think.
Now, Matt, I remember hearing something about the statistics in terms of the amount of times I think he ran the ball or passed the ball on weird yardages and downs. Do you happen to have those stats in front of you or know what they are offhand?
Yes. 2nd and 10 ran the ball on 53% of the time. The next closest was like in the high 30s. Like it was a significant gap. I could look for it, but it was a significant gap there. I really, just to jump in on this for a second, I am very much rooting for Adam Gase to prove me wrong in 2020. I really hope so. Like you guys said, a revamped offensive line should theoretically help. Sam Darnold taking another step forward in year 3 should help. And, I hope they go out and they have a top half of the league offense. That'd be phenomenal. Based on everything that I've seen from him in Chicago, the last 3-4 years in Miami, however long it was, and last year, I'm not banking on that happening, but I will try to look for that stat for you.
All right, guys.
Right, and I can appreciate that. Right. It's like we're all rooting for these guys and I honestly think that Matt's closer to reality too. I just think that like I said, I find it hard to believe Gase is the guy. I really do, but I am rooting for him. And I think that while we're building this team, I see no problem with Gase being the head coach for this year. It sucks. We suck.
That's like, oh God, there's a reason. Same old Jets and Jets just end the season. It just stuck with us, and we're such a doom and gloom fan base. And Joe Beningo is kind of like the pinnacle of just like, I've been beaten down for so long. I can't even
listen to that guy.
I just hate the world. All right, guys, phone lines are going to be open. Remember, keep your questions short because I have to reiterate the questions to our panel here, and they're not going to be able to hear what you guys are saying. Yeah, the whole Sam Darnold thing for me, the sample size thing's huge. The other part of me is like, so we have 3 more years of him under contract. So at the very least, given what we gave up to get him, I think we owe it to ourselves to invest heavily in the infrastructure around him, whether that be wide receivers, offensive linemen, whatever that may be. You just load up the team all around him with these 2 first-round picks, these the 3rd-round picks, everything that's going on. And worst case scenario is you go into, let's say, 2023, if we decide that Sam is no longer, our quarterback of the future, you have the infrastructure in place to go up, spend a ton of draft capital, get your guy, because you're not going to miss having those draft picks because the infrastructure is in place. So anyone that doesn't necessarily believe in Sam, I think you are, you shouldn't be rooting for Trevor Lawrence. There's no way that bringing in Trevor Lawrence, because one, I don't think the Jets are going to get the number 1 pick anyway. So you're going to have to trade up and move a bunch of picks to get him. There's no way I see Trevor Lawrence stepping in and having a, more success than what we've seen out of Sam this far, into his career. I think you have to go 110% in with Sam. And if you don't, hey, you gave it your best shot and you have the infrastructure there. That's kind of where I've fallen on that. I don't know. Just my thoughts in a bottle.
Yeah, I'm very much against the Trevor Lawrence rumors. I think it's ridiculous to give up on a 23-year-old quarterback and then try to invest all those draft picks in trading up to get another one. You would just be hamstringing the quarterback that you're trading up to get, like you did to Sam Darnold. It would be an endless cycle. That's why I'm very much against it.
Yeah, and you got to think too. Sam Darnold is 2 years younger than Baker Mayfield. He's younger than Joe Burrow, who was just drafted. He's younger than Lamar Jackson. He's a young quarterback. You got to think how young he was when he was drafted. He was only 20 years old. So having this young guy with 2 years under his belt in the long run is it's gonna be good for the Jets. I think we're behind the 8 ball in terms of what we should have done in the past. I think what the Bills did last offseason is what the Jets should have done, and it's what Joe Douglas did this offseason. So we're basically a year behind the Bills. We need to have the drafting. I think the Bills' infrastructure in terms of their head coach, their GM, and everything has been rock solid for the last few years, and that's put a very strong team around Josh Allen. And look, when you look at the rest of that draft class with maybe aside from Josh Rosen, but you got Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and Sam Darnold. It's plain as day who had the worst supporting cast of that entire bunch, and it is absolutely Sam Darnold. The amount that he has had to deal with in these first 2 years, I just hope we don't break the guy. My biggest issue is that we've wasted 2 years of his career potentially. Now, the mono thing, I guess you can't really prevent that because Sam is just a rock-solid stud. I mean, you can't help, when girls just throw themselves at him. I have no hate towards Sam with that. Get mono all you want. Just let's try to get it, in the offseason. Let's try to not – we'll keep him away. We'll have him, just get him off Tinder or whatever he's sitting on when he's at home just kind of hanging out. I don't know. I believe in Sammy.
Yeah, man. And look, and people say that that's an excuse, right? But it is reality an excuse? You know what I mean? Like the kid, his situation has been that offensive line, man, and the weapons that he had at his disposal. And this is what I was going to say earlier. The end of the year, we were literally bringing guys in off the practice squad, wide receivers, and they were going on injured reserve 2 weeks later. Like that's where we were as far as the talent around him. And somehow that guy improved statistically. Now, he wasn't lighting up the world or anything, but he showed improvement under the absolute worst circumstances, like you said, with mono. And I think here's the thing I like most about Sam, is I think that he understands the lesson. You get that from him. Like when he said this year, I don't do anything. It's going to be a real boring life for me right now. I'm going to go home. I'm going to eat. I'm going to maybe play a video game, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to work. And that's it. I believe him when he says it. I don't think we're in any danger of him being caught with, an ounce of weed and a firearm, driving down the street at 85 miles an hour. I don't see that with him. And that's really a positive for such a young guy. Like you said, he's literally younger than the quarterback who was taken first overall this year. And he's in his third year. So I think there's a lot of credence to that. It's very relevant. It might sound like an excuse, but there's a lot of reason to like this guy, man. And he's going to be with us for the next 20 years, I think. That's what we have. We have a kid, Trevor Lawrence, you want to start over again and all. Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's our quarterback, and I believe in him 100%.
Yeah, I think you hit it spot on. I don't want to hit the reset button. I don't want to play this whole game with Trevor Lawrence like all over again. I don't know Sam Darnold at all, and just from watching him, he seems like a pretty smart guy. One of the guys that used to work in my pro shop at the golf course went to Clemson, or goes to Clemson currently, and actually had a class with Trevor Lawrence. So I know from like firsthand experience, or I guess second or third hand experience from that guy, that Trevor Lawrence is not the brightest bolt in the box, not the brightest crayon in the box, not the sharpest tool in the shed, one fry short of a Happy Meal, that kind of thing. We got a caller on the line.
Call from
who we got?
Paul.
Hey, what's up, Paul? How you doing? Welcome to Talking Jets.
Ryan, how are you, buddy? How's everything?
Oh, just
Can you hear me?
another beautiful day. Oh yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Good, good. So, yeah, good. So, listen, to you, to Matt, and to Green Bean, I've been a Jet fan way before you guys were born, and sometimes, like, we tell ourselves, oh, we drafted Sam Darnold. You guys talking about Sam Darnold, you drafted him. You're saying, my God, I hope the Jets don't destroy that kid. Look at this kid's, you follow personas on players. He's not a vocal guy. He's not a Twitter fella. He's very, I call him like a Derek Jeter mentality, very prim and proper. I think that this particular kid, like Green Bean had mentioned, is the future. We've never had that constant from Richard Todd to Ken O'Brien. I could name you so many guys. I think that the biggest problem out there in social media and YouTubers that you look at is that we cannot nitpick on a structure that Joe Douglas is bringing here. Joe Douglas is bringing a structure where he would say that, listen, we want to have a structure where we want to have depth on our team, and when a player reaches a certain age, there might be a possibility that we're going to have to let him go, but we have a good backup plan. Sort of what they're doing in New England, sort of what they did on the Baltimore Ravens, and I haven't seen that kind of structure with the Jets since, honestly, Parcells was there, Belichick was there, Scott Pioli was there, when we had that glimpse of good organization. And you got to give Joe Douglas a lot of credit. This guy is, what's the best way to say it? He's golden. You know what I mean, Ryan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to get our panel's thoughts on it because I'm going to wind up running out of memory for this whole question. But thank you so much for calling in, brother. So basically, he wants to talk about Sam Darnold, and he agrees with basically what we're saying, with believe in Sam Darnold and all that. And he just has the personality, like Green Bean said. And the caller brought up the Jeter mentality, someone that has a very almost stoic personality. He's not like a Jamal Adams that's going to be overly loud and kind of in your face, and almost like that Eli personality where it's like, hey, calm, cool, collected. It's basically what New York needs. You can't give the press like unlimited bulletin board material because they'll just lay into you. Sam is dry as can be. It's like the perfect person that I want leading the Jets, because it's not Geno Smith getting in a fight in the locker room. Like, I'm never going to see Sam Darnold do that. You're never going to see Sam on the sidelines eating a hot dog or like, all the different stuff that we got out of Sanchez. And I think that's important. I think the personality is really important. I think he's all about his craft. And I think I don't know if it's a melting pot, or I think all the ingredients for a really successful quarterback are all right there. Like, I believe that Sam Darnold's ceiling is a top 5 perennial quarterback in this league. Will he achieve that is another thing, and Gase plays a big part in that. The Joe Douglas and the surrounding team plays a big part in that too. But I think all the ingredients are there for him to kind of have that success. Green Bean, what do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I agree. I think, the type of personality for New York, like, remember when we were talking about, we thought that Baker Mayfield was going to be the guy to fall to us. And I didn't want the guy. I honestly didn't. I didn't hate his game, but I didn't like his personality for us. And it's like, it's very different than Jamal Adams, but similar in the, in, like you said, bulletin board material, and just easily goaded into saying shit. And the New York press, if they're good at anything, it's getting people to say things they don't want to say, specifically for the headline. Like, that's what their job is. And I think Sam Darnold, he knows the right thing to say. He just keeps the company line, and that's it. He's not telling anybody too much. He's not giving too much info. He's just saying the stuff. And that goes a long way if you're going to have a leader on your team. Like Jamal Adams like to call himself a leader, but he's not a leader, man. He's completely about himself. And if he was a leader, if young guys are coming in and seeing that's the guy to follow, then you're going to have a team filled with a bunch of punks and loudmouths and all that kind of stuff. Sam Darnold is leading by example, and I think he is the right type of personality. Again, just like you said, Ryan, we don't know what's going to happen. I believe in him. I think he has all the potential in the world. But as far as the makeup, he has all of the foundational building blocks that you would want for a quarterback to succeed in this ridiculous market that we're in.
Matt, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so happy 5th year anniversary, by the way, of the Geno Smith getting knocked out by
That's right. Oh
Right.
my God. I saw that earlier today.
Yeah, wild. I still can't believe that to this day. But I agree with you that I think that plays to Sam's strength, that he is someone who is very, I don't know if boring's the right word, but he's not flashy. He does his job. He's a lunch pail guy. You know, he goes in, does his thing, doesn't make too much noise, bring too much attention to himself. You were talking about Baker Mayfield and how he's kind of the opposite of that. And while I agree that he is kind of the opposite of that, I was a proponent of the Jets drafting him. I liked his game for one, and then on top of that, I thought that the Jets were coming away from a very boring era of Josh McCown and Matt Forte, and like they didn't really have anyone outside of Jamal Adams, big personality wise, and I thought that it could have been good for branding and just getting a culture going. Anyway, I'm more than thrilled that Sam Darnold is here, and I do believe that he is someone who is serious about winning and serious about becoming the best quarterback possible. And from what I've seen over 2 years, I have no reason to believe that he isn't going to be a very good quarterback in this league for a long time.
Yeah, I like what I see out of Sam. I'm a big fan of this. I was a big fan of Baker coming out, mainly because I thought Sam was going number 1. I thought he was a lock to be the first pick overall. I was all about Broadway Baker and the charisma and everything that he could bring. I wasn't overly high on Josh Allen. I liked Lamar Jackson, but he was not in the top 10 for me in terms of selection at that point. And Rosen probably would have been my 3rd quarterback. Thank God that didn't happen. But yeah, no, I like Sam. I like the personality. I like everything that he kind of brings to the table. I want to shout out NY Sports MC. He dropped a little knowledge in the chat over there. He said Next Gen Stats has Bradley McDougald as the 8th best player in coverage last year. That is impressive. I don't know where Jamal Adams ranks on that, but I'd have to imagine it is lower than 8th.
He was not in the top 10. I did see that earlier. Good call on that.
That was a great stat. Guys, if you've not subbed up NY Sports MC, go head over there. He calls into the show a bunch, over the course of the night. He is a very knowledgeable Jets fan, and you should totally sub him up as well. All right, guys, phone lines are open. We have about 16 minutes left in the show. And remember, keep your questions short because I have to reiterate the questions to our panel here. And if you guys are not following Green Bean and Matt on YouTube or any of their other social media platforms, check out the link in my description down below. Their links to their pages are all right there, so you guys can sub them up. JETS Mess says, is that the Green Bean machine in the background there, Green Bean?
Yes, it is. You see, I have up to where am I? Utah, on my little map there. That's the map of my progress. So tomorrow I'll have Idaho on it. But yeah, man, this is where I live, buddy, and I'm out here. I swear to God, I thought a tornado was just coming through. I know you guys couldn't see it, but we had to bring the awning in.
We heard it, yeah.
Everything's covered. Did you hear it?
I was like, I thought I was watching Twister, and I thought I was going to see the RV just. A cow goes flying by. Alpacas.
Alpacas. I had to literally hold the computer. It started like shaking, like it was going to blow off the table. I was just like holding everything down, trying to look relaxed. Everybody's running around me. I was like, holy shit. I said to my wife, is this a tornado? And I said, I don't know where I am. I don't know if they get tornadoes here. But it was, this is an experience, man. But yeah, that's where I live. But I live in there with my wife and 2 kids. And that's also an experience.
what's going on in the chat? Who we got shouting? I'll shout out some people in there. We got Adam, Evan, Jamie, the Mini Mamba, TJ, Mitt. Who's that Jet Nation guy with that blue wrench? He's a good-looking guy. I think he's super handsome. Oh, it's our Green Bean. It's that Green Bean character. Jet Life 45, my brother. What's up, dude? Sam is going to explode this year. Mark my words, guys. I like it. What else is going on in there? If we were in position to take a quarterback this year, who would you guys have wanted? This year? I'm glad we didn't need to take a quarterback. I mean, I guess it would have been maybe Tua. I don't know if I trust Burrow fully yet. But we got a caller on the line. Let's see what we got. What's going on?
John from Palm Coast.
John, what's up, brother? Welcome to Talkin' Jets.
Hey, Ryan, man. Love your show. Glad you guys are talking some Jets. And last caller had a great point. Sam is the guy. I trust him 100%. Him and Joe Douglas and Greg Williams are my top 3 most trustworthy people in this organization. With that said, we need to get a pass rusher. And I've been on Ngakoue for a long time. We need to get a guy like that in this building. And I think Sam and the rest of the team are going to do much better than people think we are. We're going to build it up, man. Sam is our guy.
Yeah, I love it. And John brings up a great point, and he's saying he's like, I want the edge rusher. He's high on Ngakoue. I think all of us pretty much are. I would not trade for him at this point, given the restraints that kind of come with him. For those of you that don't know, Yannick was franchise tagged, so he's getting paid about $19 million right now. If you were to trade for him, you take on that full cap hit, but franchise tag players only have until I believe it's like July 7th or July 19th or something like that to sign a long-term contract with the team that franchise tagged them, and that deadline passed. He did not sign a long-term deal, which means if the Jets were to trade for him, the Jets would not be able to sign him to a deal until after the league year, and that means like in March when free agency starts, that's when you're allowed to negotiate. I believe 3 days before it actually kicks off. So you're in this weird position then where you have to give up a draft pick to get him in a season that may or may not happen, or at least could have an abbreviated season. Then you're not allowed to renegotiate with the guy. You're eating up cap space on his contract for this year anyway. And then you go into free agency or leading up to free agency where you're either going to have to franchise tag him, which is going to be about $26 million, which just doesn't seem realistic to look to do, or you're going to have to sign him to a massive contract. He's going to have a ton of leverage. Basically what we want to have happen at this point is have him hit free agency, let a bidding war, go for the players or the teams that want him, and the Jets are going to be in a good position where they can offer probably the most money of a lot of teams that are going to be out there, because there's not a lot. Let me pull up the actual over the cap just to kind of see what teams are looking at salary cap space wise for next year. It's not great. Like the Jets currently right now are sitting 4th. Projected cap about $70 million, give or take a little bit. I wish I could edit the little base cap salary because they're still projecting $215 million, but we're going to have rollover money. The Colts are going to have like $100 million in cap space, so they could, throw money at him. The Jaguars, I didn't realize how much money the Jaguars have. They have like $86 million in cap. Now, I don't know what's rolling over because that number is going to be lower because you figure if over the cap is projecting 215, that's what, $40 million less, per team. So even then, that's still $40 million plus whatever rollover they have. The Patriots are going to be high up there, but obviously if Cam Newton does well, they're going to want to at least bring him back for a season. You got to figure a good season out of him is going to net him at least $20 million. I mean, Bridgewater just got, 24 a year, I think. Ngakoue is fascinating for me. I just think the logistics to bring him in this year, it kind of falls in the same rationale that I have for not wanting to bring in any additional free agents like a Logan Ryan or a Jadeveon Clowney. Matt, what do you think about the edge rusher situation? Are you looking at anyone else other than Ngakoue, or what's on your mind there?
I don't expect the Jets to do anything about it right now. I think they're going to stick for the most part with the roster that they have. I would really be surprised, not at just edge, but pretty much any position. I don't really expect them to be looking to add right now. Obviously, I definitely look at that position as a need going forward. Um, for 2020, I think it's going to be a mix of Basham, Zuniga, maybe Huff on that other side. We know Jenkins is going to lock down one of the outside linebacker positions, but I mean, it's definitely when you look at this roster and when you look at premium positions in the NFL, it's been a huge need for this team for a very very long time, and it's about time they address it. I don't think it's going to be in the near future, as in before this season, but in the off season, whether it be the draft, whether it be free agency, I definitely expect Joe Douglas to fix that position.
Green Bean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, and I think that we have the ability to roll that over. All the cap space we have now is cap space next year, so I don't see us doing anything, a big deal right now. I can see, maybe if somebody goes down, obviously. I mean, there are still some good guys out there, surprisingly. Griffin, Ryan. I mean, there are quite a few guys still out there that are actually quality, which is different than most years. They don't usually make it this long. So they're still out there and stuff. I don't see us making a big trade. I mean, a lot of people, like the idea now that we have the extra first, like we can actually use it and still keep our first, it's all great. And like you said, the Ngakoue thing, unfortunately, it's not a good idea because of the restrictions on being able to sign him. So essentially, you give a first round pick, and it's a crapshoot. It's a lottery, whether or not he's just a 1 year rental for a first round pick, which you do not want to get into. So you can't really do it. I could see us bringing in maybe Griffin or something, but in truth, I think they're really excited to see the young guys that they have, Zuniga and Huff and those types of guys at the edge, Basham. I think they want to see what they have before they, start bringing in guys that are going to take that time away. Because next year, like we said, they do have the draft capital. Don't forget, we don't only have 2 firsts, we have 2 thirds and 2 fifths as well. We can really get some people in here and create a competition at some of these positions. And I think that guys like Bryce Hall at the cornerback spot are really going to show us, man. Like, this guy is a number 1 corner. I'm a huge Hall fan. Of course, the injury is a concern. I think they'll do a good job moving him in slow. But if you start bringing in Logan Ryan and all that kind of stuff, these young guys that we do have, we're never going to know what they can do in game action. And this is not the year, guys. I think they're going to try to get to the playoffs if they can. Sure, why not? But I think this is really an evaluation year. That's why you see a lot of the 1 year contracts, or at least part of the reason why. We want to see what are guys like LaShawn Austin going to do? What's Mollett going to do second year in the system? What are these guys going to do that we brought in via the draft and undrafted free agency? Let's see what they can do, and then next year we know what our needs really are, and then Joe Douglas is going to slam it home with a whole slew of extra picks, and then you can back that up in 22 as well.
So I have some of the edge rushers kind of on over the cap that are set to hit free agency next year. This doesn't include potential cuts or anything like that, but guys off the top of the list, Ngakoue will be 26 for next year. You got Judon playing on the franchise tag. Melvin Ingram is going to be 32 from the Chargers. Shaq Barrett, I imagine he would get re-signed. He's a huge name out there. Bud Dupree is playing on the franchise tag for the Steelers. And then you start getting into some other guys, but Solomon Thomas is 26 years old. That could be a potential name that gets thrown around if he doesn't get extended. There's going to be some interesting options for the Jets, both in free agency and the draft. And I think pending what happens in free agency, that's obviously going to dictate what happens come the end of April. For the draft, or is it May? April, May. When does the draft happen again? End of May.
Usually late April.
Late April. Oh, God, man, my days are all messed up. I had quarantine for 6 weeks before I went back to work, and all my wires are crossed. Yeah, look, I think we're all on board with an edge rusher. Judon's an interesting one for me because if the Ravens don't have enough money to re-sign him, he's not like the pin the ears back edge rusher that I'm really kind of looking for. But it just seems like we're bringing in all the ex-Raven linebackers with Peanut and Mosley. So why not add Judon to that list, right? Like it just sort of makes sense. Let's see, other free agents that are going to be coming out in 2021. Let's see. They have the quarterbacks up there. AJ Green's playing on a franchise tag. Leonard Williams, Brandon Sheriff, the guard. I don't really want to touch him. He's gonna be 30 years old. Thuney. I didn't realize Thuney would be 29. I thought he was a little bit younger there. He's the guy I want in terms of
Sheriff?
offensive lineman. No, Thuney. No, I don't want Sheriff.
Oh, right on.
Thuney.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
big Thuney fan.
I misheard. Good. That's good news.
You look at guys like Trent Williams and Russell Okung, they're both going to be 33 next year. So if you bring in an offensive lineman, they can play 3-4 years. I'm not really concerned with that. Who else is on this list? Justin Houston, he's going to be 32, so a little bit older there. I'm not against bringing in, a guy on a 1-year deal that plays a position that we could need. Like I was very high on Vinny Curry. I think he just re-signed with the Eagles for like $3 million or $4 million. The guy's, just a situational pass rusher that has really, kind of honed his craft. And I think that's exactly where the Jets should kind of be targeting. If you can't get like one of those elite guys like an Ngakoue or a Judon or insert whoever there. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Got a lot of different avenues and routes that we can kind of take here. What are you guys' thoughts, in terms of... Actually, you know what? Here, let me pull up the wide receiver list because I know we've talked about Juju and we've talked about Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Other guys potentially. So Robinson will be 28 years old. That's a nice young receiver there. Green, probably not going anywhere. T.Y. Hilton's 32. Keenan Allen, 29, just can't stay healthy. Sammy Watkins, 28 years old. Kenny Stills. Corey Davis, I guess. Man, where the heck is Juju on this list? I'm shocked he's not on here. I wonder if it's just listed by like... I think it's listed by the amount of money they've been paid. So yeah. I think that's why I'm not seeing Juju. Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's way down the list. But he'll be 25 years old. That's someone you invest in. That's why we wanted Ngakoue, because Ngakoue is 25 this year. That would have been my move had he hit free agency, I think. Other guys kind of sitting around there. None that are really jumping off the page. Curtis Samuel is going to be a popular name, I think. I know he's been floated around in trade rumors. So maybe he kind of shakes loose.
Yeah, I don't mind him as a secondary piece. I don't know if I'd go, break the bank for Curtis Samuel. There we go.
Let's see. I'm curious what kind of cornerbacks are hitting the market. Patrick Peterson at 31. I don't know how much I really want to roll the dice on a 30-year-old corner as much as I like Patrick Peterson. I'm over the whole Tremaine Johnson, second round of Darrelle Revis, all these guys. I'd rather someone a little bit younger. Jalen Ramsey, I guess, is still, in theory could hit the open market. I don't really see that happening. He would be an interesting cat to bring in if you could. I think I'd like to invest a little bit of money in a premium position, but at the same time, saving that cap space for when we eventually are going to have to re-sign Sam, because hopefully that happens in 2 years' time. Just before his 5th year is when I'd like to see the Jets extend Sam.
Hope we see it. That'd be a good thing.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize McCourty was 34 years old. Jason. I guess both McCourtys. They're twins, right? Who else is in there? Michael Davis, 26. God, it's hard to kind of rank all these guys. I wish they should combine this with like the Pro Football Focus ranks so I can kind of figure out. Like,
Yeah.
I know they do blend a little bit of stuff with the premium edition of Over the Cap, but not quite, what I'm looking at. Maybe we can, you know what? I was going to go into long snappers, but we're going to save that for another panel. Guys, we are reaching the end of our panel tonight. Let's go around the thing and do our closing remarks. Green Bean, I'll kick it to you first. Any last words for the people out in the panel tonight?
Yeah, man. I really appreciate everybody being you guys. Most importantly, because you're doing this with me, but everybody being so cool with my working through these technology and weather issues and all that. Because I really love doing this. I just love talking Jets football with you guys and the chat guys, the consistent guys. They're so into it, man, and I just love it. Patrick Hoggett, I'm sorry we're not going to get to your question. He was asking us some stuff, but we're trying to wrap it up. But yeah, man, I'm just looking forward to it. We're just about 1 month from the first game of the season. I think it's September 10th, it's 30 or 29 days or something. And I'm looking forward to it. I hope we make it, man. That's what we got to do. We got to get there and play some damn football. And I couldn't be more excited to watch Sam Darnold behind this offensive line. I got good feelings, and I think Joe Douglas is the guy to right the ship.
Guys, we need one more like to hit 100. Matt, any closing remarks for us?
Yes. To piggyback off of what Green Bean was saying, we are so close to the football season. Can we just please wear our masks so we could have football? Please, I need an NFL Sunday so bad. I really need it. So I enjoyed this every week. It's a ton of fun to talk Jets football with you guys. So looking forward to continuing this as well.
I love you guys. It's been a lot of fun tonight, and I will reiterate those guys as well. Make sure you wear your mask. Come on, we all want a football season. Let's just get there together, and then we can finally watch our team hopefully not make an ass of themselves. But guys, that is it for us tonight. Thank you so much. We'll be back here next week talking Jets with you. Jets.